marriage, and we've gone to many different churches. We had a home church for a while in Gresham, and we were serving our church for about 3 or 4 times a week. And there was a time when him and I were really thinking about it and prayed a lot, and we felt that God was calling us to do something different in our community here in Estacada. And that's how ECW was born, which, if you don't know what ECW is, it's called Estacada Community Watch. Estacada Community Watch is our nonprofit now. It started out as Joel and myself wanting to serve our community without all the politics involved, without all the layers and layers of permissions you'd have to go through in order to get work done. We wanted to do something where we can serve the community directly right away instead of having to ask permission. So we started ECW. At first, it was just a little community group. We weren't sure if we were going to become a nonprofit or not. And then we decided that we wanted to do more. So we became a nonprofit. We got a board of directors. We have some amazing people on our board, and we have some officers. And at first, Joel was the president, and now I am, because they voted me in a while back. Imagine that. And yeah, so we started the nonprofit because we wanted to do more. We wanted to be able to serve the community in a really genuine, honest, easy way. And there are some misconceptions we had before getting into this. There's a lot that goes into. There's a lot of work that goes into it, and a lot of people don't know that. There's a lot of paperwork. First off, you have to go through a lot of paperwork to get into a nonprofit. But for us, it was all about the heart. For us, and for myself, I truly believe that as a Christian, I was put here to serve people and to love people. And when my relationship is good with God, my heart overflows, and that it just flows into other people. And to be able to do that with a real way and a tangible way, to love people in a tangible way, is really inspiring. There's some hardships, there's some negatives to it, but there are some crazy experiences we've had in this adventure. I mean, the first thing we did was to kind of protect our town, but also protect people that wanted to come and protest in our town. We thought, we need to make sure everyone stays safe. So when that happened in our town, we kind of stood in the middle, because there were people on both sides that were angry at each other. And we gathered up community members that had the same thought process and decided we were going to help keep everyone safe. Of course, it got twisted and turned into something it wasn't. But I think we've gotten over that rumor now. It's been a while. And then after that, we started doing small things like cleaning up a small chunk of town where it was really dirty and full of trash, and there were some fences along the river that were broken down. So we went and we cleaned up and we rebuilt the fencing, and we did some cool stuff like that. And then the fires happened. When the fires happened, I think the last thing anyone was thinking about was what we actually ended up doing. We all had to get to safety. Well, my husband, being the man he is, who likes to scare me half to death, decided to stay back. He stayed back, and he started with simply doing live videos. Of course, when he first stayed back, he was helping direct traffic to keep people away from the fires before we were evacuated. Once we were evacuated, he was doing these live streams where he would drive around town and give people a little bit of comfort knowing that their homes were still there, that our town was still standing. Because when you're evacuated and all the stuff that was coming at us in the news, it was really scary. There was a moment, I'm sure, if you guys know me personally, you probably saw this little live video I took where I was bawling my eyes out because we were told by the news and by Clackamas County that they were pulling out, and they had to evaluate the situation because it was too dangerous. And that was a really scary moment in my husband. He, you know what, he was out there, he was working, he was helping people, he was keeping people, safe, and he still made time to come home for a few hours and get some rest. But the look on his face when he came home that moment was scary. He basically told me, it was the day before they told us they were pulling back, and he looked at us, and we were staying with our friends, and he looked at us and just shook his head. And that was, anyways, so the next day when they told us that they were leaving, a miracle happened. Estacada showed up, right? We all know the story. People from all over our town that either had rigs or had water trucks or had whatever they had, and however they could help, they went to help. And while that was happening, my husband and our amazing mayor, who is seriously one of the most incredible men you'll ever meet, and I tell everyone, once you meet him, you will adore him. They came up with this idea, and I think it was actually the mayor's idea, to create a central point where they could work from to help people, to get food to people, to get clothing to people, where the firefighters can come get food and take a break, where the county can come and set up a command post where people could find out what's going on if they were in town, or they could bring donations if they were in town. Of course, at that time, they said, stay away from town if you're already out, but if you're here, come and we have stuff for you. And that's the birth of the Relief Center, which that, I think, is what skyrocketed our organization to wanting to do more. Before that, we were just doing little things, and at that moment, it blew up. I mean, our town showed that no matter what our differences are, no matter what we disagree on, if shit's going down, we're going to be there for each other. And that was pretty amazing. And so, with that, we started to think of bigger things we wanted to do. Like last year, we started our annual Thanksgiving boxes and our annual Christmas adoptions. And this year, we're on our second year and going strong. So it's pretty cool how that can work. There's lots of nonprofits. I know a misconception is that a nonprofit can't make any money, and that's not true. Sorry, I'm pulling up my tablet so I can see what's going on here. It's not true. A nonprofit can make money, but it cannot go into an individual person. It has to go right back into what you're doing, serving. So, oh man, I was supposed to sign on to my name and I didn't do that, but that's okay. One thing that has been really hard for us, I think, is that I really didn't expect the negativity that comes along with this. Now, I don't know if you guys know about this kind of stuff, but I have a lady who I really, really adore that works for a really big nonprofit organization that helped us a lot during the fires. And she's an incredible woman of God, and she has given me a lot of advice. And she told me during the Relief Center, she says, there are going to be times when you will be almost wiped out by how people can be so inhuman and how negative and how nasty people can be. And I didn't get it then, but I get it now. And what I'm talking about is, if you look at, for example, our organization, ECW, you look at our organization, it's good, right? We feed people, we clothe people, we'll pay bills if we have to for people. Anything we can do to help, we try to do that to the best of our ability. It doesn't matter who you are, what you believe, what you say. almost every, sorry, I was trying to read that and I didn't see anything. So, okay. Almost every day we get to see a positive difference in someone's life, whether it be we kept the heat on for someone that's elderly and sick, or we got food to a family who would never ask for help, but a friend of ours tells us, I will get it to them if you get it for us. Or we were able to help someone get connected with the resources to keep them in their home. When the fires happened, we were able to help people get into hotels and stay warm for the night or stay fed. It's that tangible thing that you don't necessarily see when you're a part of a bigger organization, or a bigger church is also a nonprofit. So sometimes you don't see that difference you're making, but with a smaller nonprofit, you can see it, and it's really cool. Some other positives are, that what you're doing is good. As long as you keep that in your head, it helps you to keep through the negative stuff. What else about nonprofits? Well, I did look up something here, so let me pull it up. Sorry, I still don't know how to work this darn thing. The boys make it look so easy. Okay. I pulled up some information on nonprofits that I was going to read to you guys, but it looks like it got deleted. Okay. Sorry about that. It's kind of hard to talk by yourself. The boys have it easy. So there's like a few facts that people don't really know. There's millions of nonprofits. Millions, which I was surprised by that. There's 1.5 million nonprofits were registered with the IRS as tax exempt as of July this year. Nonprofits play an important role in the U.S. economy. From 2000 to 2010, the nonprofit sector grew in terms of employees and wages faster than the government and business sector. So that's pretty crazy, huh? Not all nonprofits are tax exempt. Churches and schools they don't even have it that way, and I support it. I support this recall 100%. Now, do I support it as president of ECW? Not unless my board tells me I can, because I don't get to make those choices. So as of now, no. But do I support it personally? Yes. And I think it's because when you have somebody in a government position, whether it be a local council person or a senator or a county commissioner, if they don't have respect for the people that voted them in, then they shouldn't be there. Plain and simple. And this person has, time and time again during council meetings, has said that she doesn't want the people to have a say. Now, does she say that never they should have a say? No, but there's been many times when the council's making choices and other counselors are saying, let's get the community's input on this. And she goes, we don't need that. Okay? Also, we found out recently that this councilwoman has been digging into our nonprofit. Now, my question is, go for it, first of all, because we have done everything we're supposed to do. We are above board, clean as a whistle. But when you go on the attack, I'd like to know what a motivation is for a government official to attack a nonprofit that does good things for their community. Think about that. I'd love to know what you guys think about that. And so I'm going to pull this up and see if there are any questions yet. Nope, I don't see anything. Oh, okay, so Facebook killed the feed. Sorry, guys, that means that you have to watch me on YouTube. For some reason, Facebook's got some sort of crush on us or something, because they cut the boys last night and they cut me quickly too. I'm like 20 minutes in. Hey, that's a record. They said I'm more popular, so maybe that's why. Somebody said that the 501c3 can give a write-off whereas a regular nonprofit can only write off up to $250. So I had that right. So we can write off any amount with a 501c3. I'd like to find out what about talking about a nonprofit would make Facebook kill the feed. Does anybody else have a problem with that? Because last night the boys were talking about a school shooting, and they were talking about school resource officers and how Portland has been pulling school resource officers and how important they are, because they first they form a bond with those kids in the school. They talk, they make kids see a positive side of the police, and they also can be there to help protect if something bad would happen. So the boys were talking about that, and the feed got cut. And now I'm talking about nonprofit organizations and, a city council person in our little town, and the feed got cut again. So I'm wondering what's going on there, because it's streaming fine on YouTube. Do you guys have any ideas on what that could be? Because I'm curious. What else did I want to talk about tonight with the nonprofits? So another thing that can happen is, especially in one like ours, we're full of volunteers. None of us get paid a penny, including myself. I spend probably at least 50 or 60 hours a week doing this work. Not always out of my home. Sometimes it's in the middle of the night I think of an idea, or I get someone to call me. Usually it's phone calls. But I do spend a lot of time. I'm really blessed that my husband has a really good job and an amazing boss, that not only can he support us and I don't have to work, but he also, during the Relief Center, gave my husband all the time he needed to take care of our town first and our community and make sure we are all safe. So that's a pretty amazing boss. If anyone were to ask, I would say we are very blessed with that. But yeah, you can get, there's something called, and I'm probably going to say this wrong, it's about being worn out. You can get burnt out, okay? So you also have volunteers that give a lot of time. What I've noticed is we have a certain number of volunteers, and then we have that core volunteer group. So we have, say we have 50 volunteers, you have about 10 that are religiously there at every event, at every option they get, every chance they have to serve, they do. And that's beautiful and it's wonderful. But I've noticed that we really, really, really need to make sure that they get breaks, as with anything you do. But when you're working in a nonprofit where, like I said, you have negativity coming at you for no reason, it makes no sense when you're doing something positive, and then you're working yourself too hard, the morale can go really down. So it's really important to focus on making sure that everybody gets a break, everybody gets a chance to take some time for themselves. And I have to learn that, because I still am learning that. I get told by a lot of the people in our organization that I need to take a break, including my family tells me all the time, just take a minute. But I think that's because my heart is so into it. It's my passion, and I love it. It might wear me out, but I love it. And I think that you have different kinds of volunteers. You have some that enjoy it and like to do it, but only once a year. You have some that are like, yeah, they want to make it a regular thing, a few times a year or once a month or something. And then you've got people like me who are crazy and spend every free minute you have serving the community. And that's just because that's where my heart is. It's not because I feel I have to. It's because it's what I want to do. I think we're getting close to a break. So what I will say is, if you're still with us, whether we're on Facebook again or if we're only on YouTube, think about some questions you might have about our experiences. I'm going to go warm up my hands and my feet for a minute and think of some cool stories to tell you guys. And I might talk about something else too, because I think I've told you everything I could about nonprofits. So we'll see you after the break, hopefully. Anyways, so I also wanted to touch on something that the guys touched on. Now, it wasn't this yesterday, it was last week. We had our producer George on with Joel and Tony, and I wanted to talk a little bit about my view on that. So you kind of heard how our nonprofit started, where we were serving our church. We were serving our church. At one point, I taught preschool Sunday school. My husband was really, really, really working hard with the youth. To every once in a while, he'd actually his youth pastor would let him get up and speak, and we were just connected in that way. I was connected to the younger kids, and he was connected to the teens, and that's where our hearts were. And then, both of us felt that we were being called for something more. We felt that we were being called for something deeper. And our church was wonderful, amazing. But we felt that we were missing something. And it really resonated with me when the guys were talking, not last night, but last week, about the purpose of the church. And it was confusing to me. I know my husband's point of view because we talk about it all the time. And I think I understand George's point of view. And I think that he might have misunderstood what Joel was saying. So, in my perspective, it's the most important thing as a Christian. I'm a Christian woman. I have been. I grew up in the church, but I also decided for myself when I was 15. I, of course, was a Christian up till that point, but I think when I was 15 and I made that decision for myself that I was a follower of Jesus because I believed and wanted to be and felt it in my heart, not because I was told I had to. There's a big difference there. As a Christian woman, I firmly believe, and Christian is a terrible word these days, it feels like, because everybody seems to think when you hear Christian, you think religion, and that's not what it's supposed to be. And that was the whole purpose, or porpoise, the way they put it, of that conversation, was it's not supposed to be about the rituals and the making sure you show up on Sunday so people think you're a good Christian, making sure that you wear the right clothes to church, making sure that your attendance is perfect, because that's the way you have to be, making sure that you do what you're told as far as the church says. And some churches have different development of our belief is supposed to be our relationship with God. Our relationship with God has to be, and this is my feelings, this is where I'm coming from. Our relationship with God has to be the central focus, the number one, the most important thing. When you have a good relationship with God, where you're walking in faith, reading the Bible, praying, and all that stuff, those are things that are important, right? And you build your relationship with God to a point where you're so full of love, because that relationship brings love. God's love for us is, nobody could ever measure it, right? And when you're building that relationship up and his love is flowing into you, it has to pour out somewhere. And we were put on this earth to love each other, to try to show people who might not know. I mean, there are people out there that still don't know anything about God or Jesus. And if you don't believe in God, you should. He's awesome. That's my opinion. And if you don't, I will still serve you in my community work. I will still feed you and clothe you and love you and take care of you, because I don't care if you do or not. As far as who you are as a human, that doesn't change. I do care because I want you to experience God's love. And I'm hoping that this little bit of experience with me, or someone in our organization, or my husband, or anyone else that's trying to do that little bit of like, wow, that person loves me or cares about me or is helping me, that little bit might bring you enough happiness to see the world a little differently. Because right now, our world is scary and dark and gross, and there's so many things that we are being told to disagree on. There's so many things we're being told to fight about. And what I found interesting of last week, there were 3 men that were sitting up here that love God. All 3 of them do. But still, there was an argument there. And I love my husband to death. I love Tony to death. George, I like you. I don't know you enough to love you. But it's just, I found it interesting, because I think they were saying some of the same things. And I feel like right now we are being trained to look at everything negatively, to look at everything as an argument, to look at, if someone disagrees with us, we have to hate them. If somebody thinks politically differently, they're the enemy. And that's not reality. That is a screen that is put in front of us by those that want power and money and want to continue to grow that, and they don't care if they ruin lives to do it. And that is also one of the reasons why I love what I do, because I get to be face to face with people every day, or phone with people every day, and I get to just talk to them and be a human being and love them and care for them and help them, and in turn they help me and they teach me and they love me back and they care for us back. And that is what we need to get back to. I'm really, really sick and tired of seeing all the crap. There's so much of it. um, to the point of family members are telling other family members that I am not going to be around you because I don't agree with your choice, whether that be vaccinated or unvaccinated, whether that be mask or no mask, um, or this person believes that these rituals are how you have a good relationship, and this person believes that these rituals are how you have a good relationship. If you strip it all away and you just get to the basics, it's all a smokescreen, you guys. We're being taught to hate each other. So here's some, I'd like to give some examples to show how you can show love to one another, or God's love can come out if you're a believer. One way is, say you're walking to the store and you see somebody that's like having a hard time. Nowadays, it's really commonplace to just keep walking, ignore them, keep going, focus on what you're doing. You're busy, you got a lot to do today, you got a lot of things to do. If you stopped for a minute and just asked them if they could use a hand, ask them if there's anything they need help with, or if you could do something to make their walk a little easier. I know as myself, as someone who walks with a really funny looking limp, if somebody, most people just look at me, stare at me, and move on. If I had somebody come up and ask me, "Oh, are you okay? Do you need something?" Even if I was perfectly fine, I think that would feel pretty good. Another way is to just listen. There are so many people, especially like I've met so many people in our community that are lonely because this COVID thing has isolated them to a point where they don't have anyone. They're lonely and they just need someone that's willing to sit on the phone for an hour and let them talk. Another thing is to check in on people that you care about. Check in on them, love them. Bring food to someone you know that is having a hard time, or a friend of yours is going through marriage troubles or surgery, or they just had a death in the family, or had an accident. Bring them food. Like, you don't necessarily have to bother them, because sometimes those times you don't want to be bothered, but like, do something that isn't for you to gain anything, but it's to make them feel better, to help them, to give them a smile. All of that are ways that you can love people. Okay, so as a mom, what are your thoughts on raising a child in this culture of hate and fear? So my husband knows this about me. When we tried for 5 years to have our daughter, it was a really long process. It was really hard. With lupus, sometimes your body rejects the baby. Sometimes you miscarry. And we had that happen 4 times before we finally got pregnant for solidly. And I think we were both really nervous to talk about it until second trimester. So I've thought really long and hard about it before we had our daughter, what it meant to me to make sure that she knew she was always loved. The biggest thing for me, and I think it's a common problem in our world, is when moms or dads let their low self-esteem rub off on their children. I personally had low self-esteem as a child, mostly because of my illness. And so it took me, honestly, I had some really bad relationships, and it took me meeting Joel, who kind of told me, hey, you can't think about yourself that way. You need to be nicer to yourself. And I learned over a few years how to regain my confidence and how to build myself up. And so when we knew we were having a daughter, my number one thing was we need to be a place where she knows she's loved. She knows that no matter what she looks like, what her size is, what her abilities are, that is perfect. That God made her that way. So she's 9. She just turned 9, and I've been a little bit overzealous about it, to the point that if anybody says anything negative about themselves, she'll tell them that's not right. That's not okay. I think it's really important that our children have that foundation of not only their self-worth, but to know that God loves them and made them in that perfect image, and that you love them no matter what, and then they can go out into the world and spread that. I know our daughter is a little light. She's a little light. She can go and she befriends the people that don't have friends. She had a bully situation recently where this girl was bullying her, to the point where she ripped up a invitation or a note or something. I'm not sure. But Riley, our daughter, literally said, do you want me to make you a new one? Instead of going to hate. And obviously that's a unique quality, and that's unique to her. God made her an incredibly strong person with a very thick skin. But also I think that has to do with us instilling in her that no matter what negativity surrounds her, no matter what hate surrounds her, that she doesn't have to fall into it. She doesn't have to be a part of it, and she is loved essentially and beautifully and wonderfully, always loved. And I think it's scary in this day and age. I used to want 3 or 4 kids, and then God made it pretty clear that we were only going to have 1 child for several reasons. Maybe in another show I'll talk about that. But it's scary to have a child in this day and age, because there is a lot of hate out there. There is a lot of fear. Did we know COVID was going to happen when we had our daughter? No. And I honestly, if I had the option to have another kid right now, I wouldn't. And that's not because I hate being a mom. I love being a mom. But I'm worried for our kids' health. I'm worried for what's going to happen. I don't think any of us know what's going to happen, but I do know that you can't make it better by hating everybody, by being negative, by trying to take down those that might disagree with you, by arguing politically. That's not going to change anything. The only way we're going to make it better and get back to living our lives is to stop letting the news scare us, stop living in fear, stop listening to people that don't know what they're talking about, and start showing love no matter what. We have some people in town that hate us for none other than we have a different political view, and that we're not willing to waver on what we believe. Does that make me any less worthy of love? No. Does that make me any less capable of providing resources to someone? No. Does that make me any less capable of running a nonprofit? No. The problem is that this world is so full of fear and hate because we allow it to be. The second you sit down and say, I'm not going to listen to it, I don't care, I'm going to be a different example. If everyone were to do that, we wouldn't be in the situation we're in. With everything going on in the world and your life and so many divorces, how do you maintain your relationship strong and passionate? Oh, geez. So Joel and I have a very unique relationship, and I say that because I think a lot of people go into relationships and marriage this day and age without the concept of forever in their mind or commitment in their mind. Like I said, when I met Joel, he chased me. And I was very used to the bad boy and the abusive man and the horrible person to be with, that I didn't recognize it at first that he was the right person, but he knew right away. And he chased me. And then when we finally decided to be together and make a go of it, our first thing was we both agreed that God was the center of our entire foundation, and he still is. We also agreed that we are not allowed to quit. We're not allowed to run away. And I think that is, at the end of the day, we're on the 9th. In 11 days, I will have been married to him for 14 years, and he's still my best friend. And I think that part of that, the number one thing is making sure that God is the center and that we are not allowed to quit on each other. And then also, like, surprise each other sometimes. For me, we have a lot of the same every day. Joel works from home. He's on the computer 90% of his time. And I'm usually running around doing little things, whether I'm going to the office or I'm bringing food boxes or I'm doing a meal train, or right now I'm trying to gather all the families that we're adopting for Christmas and make sure that I get all their list of needs down so that we can get donations. But in all of that, you can get really lost in the circle of doing the same thing and busy. But there are times when he just will surprise me and say, okay, you know what? I want to hang out and watch a movie with you. Or he'll come and just rub my shoulders. Or he'll say, nope, we're going on a date tonight, and that's it. You don't have a choice. Take your phone and throw it down there, and you're not taking it. And those are ways that we keep going with each other. I think that's super important. How do you keep your nonprofit from running you into the ground? Please give practicals. How do you keep your nonprofit from running you into the ground? I'm still learning this. I personally, I'm learning how to say no, and I don't always do it, and I have to keep getting better at it. So I'm probably not the best person to ask this about. But I have learned that if I don't do it, our organization has a lot of people that can do it. So for a good example is when we were sick during the Halloween. Now this was hard for me because that was my baby preparing for Halloween. I was so excited about this. And then we were sick and we couldn't do the final day. Well, we had people that stepped up and did the job and killed it. And they did amazing. And we had 1,200 people come to our event in a small little town of Estacada. And yeah, it was hard because all the buildup was work that I had done. But to be able to know that I'm sick and my family, I really see our organization as my family, was able to take care of it. Now I'm learning that, okay, they were able to do that. So I don't always have to be the one doing everything. So delegation is huge. You have to be willing to delegate. You have to be willing to set hours for yourself. That's something I'm learning right now. A lot of people have my phone number. So there are people that don't abide by the whole, don't call me before 8 a.m., don't call me after 8 p.m. thing. But I am starting to try to find ways to draw a boundary as far as, okay, if somebody calls me at midnight, it's okay to make them wait till the next day. It's okay to not do everything in that day. And if you're tired, give yourself a break. Wait. The biggest thing is having a good support system. Luckily, we have a lot of good people in our organization that really do love to serve. And so if I call them and say, I need someone to help me wrap, they'll be there if they can. Or we'll set a different time to do it. I had somebody call me today that wanted to help me wrap. And I thought that was awesome, but it happened to not be the right day to do it. But hopefully she'll help me in a day or two. So being willing to let people help, being willing to tell other people to take things on, and being willing to say no. That's the hard one. Who said go Cowboys? Because Cowboys suck. And somebody said you can't change feeling depressed about it. It will only make matters worse. I'm wondering if they're talking about all the negativity in the world and the scariness of the world. That's probably it. Yeah, it can be depressing if you focus on it. But if you turn the news off, you start focusing your energy on positive things. I spend my time on positive things. I don't have time to watch the news. I don't have time to get angry. I don't have time to let that negative fear crap seep into me. I keep myself busy with positivity, and that, I think, really helps me to not become depressed about what the world is. When you sit back and you look at it, it is scary. It's scary, and it's not going to get any better until people say enough is enough. Like they said last night, enough is enough. We need to start coming together. We need to start working together. Personally, I will work with anybody. I've got some amazing people that help us serve the community that don't believe a single thing I believe. I have some amazing people that might have a completely different world outlook, but they're still good people, right? So your political beliefs, your football beliefs, I mean, even if you're a Cowboys lover, obviously, because my husband is, I can still work with you. And that should be the way everyone should be. Maybe, like, make it a point to try to work with someone that might not agree with you and have an actual conversation, which is what the reason the guys do what they do. They're trying to show it's okay to talk about these things, and it's okay to disagree about these things. But if you're respectful about it, then we can work on compromising and building something together. I just really would like to see people show more love and stop listening to the fear and stop letting it divide us. And somebody said Jesus still loves Biden, even if no one else does, and that's true. He does. He loves all of us, even if you're completely lost, even if you're saying that you hate him, even if you don't believe, he still loves you. And I'm trying. We're all human, right? I have 2 minutes left, so I'll try to make this point. We're all human, so we're not perfect. We can't be positive, happy, bubbly all the time. I have my moments because I deal with a lot of physical pain. But if we try to be positive and loving, and that's our goal every day, and we're focused on that instead of this crap happening here. Now, I'm not saying ignore it, because we need to start fighting back, people. But don't let it consume you. And that's my point. So I hope that, I helped in some way, or you guys enjoyed this. It's kind of hard when you're by yourself. So I'm gonna try to start having guests come on. But I do have a really good idea for next week. I want to talk about what it's like to live in a small town with a disability or a different ability, and also talk about some things that people that are differently abled deal with on a daily basis that you might not think about. And I'm gonna try to get somebody in here with me, and I'm also gonna try to get some really fun examples to make it interesting for you guys. So hopefully you had a good time, and we'll see you next week.